Hello viewers, welcome to our program for today. Today we shall discuss a well-known play titled Death of a Salesman by American playwright Arthur Miller. This play was written in the year 1949 and it was the recipient of Pulitzer Prize for Drama and Tony Award for Best Play. This play not only addresses the painful conflicts within one family but also tackles larger issues regarding American national values. Before we discuss this play in detail, let us know about the author. Arthur Miller was born in New York City on October 17, 1915. The young Miller was forced to work at a number of odd jobs to support himself, including being a farmhand. The years after the Depression were formative years for Miller, during which the formerly indifferent student began reading on his own and developing a strong social conscience and sense of justice. He eventually entered the University of Michigan, where he began writing plays and worked on the college newspaper. After graduating in 1938, he moved back to New York, where he continued writing primarily dramas. Arthur Miller's plays met with great success. The Man Who Had All the Luck, produced in 1944, won a prize offered by New York City's Theatre Guild. His first major success, however, came in the year 1947 with All My Sons, which won a Drama Critics Circle's award and was made into a film the following year. Death of a Salesman, Miller's most famous work, produced in the year 1949, won a Pulitzer Prize and was made into a film in the year 1952. The Crucible, a Tony Award-winning play, produced in 1953, is one of Miller's finest works, which also shows the playwright's strong social conscience. Miller's works are known for their strong commitment to social justice, their concern for the ordinary person, and their intricate explorations of the inner lives of their characters. We now move to the segment where we shall discuss the structure and setting of the play. The play is divided into three main parts: Act 1, Act 2, and the Requiem. Each section takes place on a different day in the present. Within Act 1 and Act 2, the story is presented through the use of Willie's flashbacks. This use of flashback is fundamental to the structure and understanding of the play. The story starts at present day and Willie then lapses in and out of the past. Each flashback is somehow related to the present. Very often, the contents of the flashback offer essential background knowledge for understanding why the present day problems in the Lohman family are occurring. For example, when Willie is thinking about Biff and Biff's problems, Willie is transported to the summer of Biff's senior year. The events that took place in the past reveal to the reader the situations that have led to the present day distress in the Lohman household. Now to discuss about the setting of the play. The play's action is partly through the mind and memory of the character called Willie Lohman. The times of the play fluctuate between the year 1942 and 1928. Miller uses various techniques in setting to help distinguish when the actors are in the present time or in the past. Most of the play is set in one part of the Lohman house. When the action of the play is in the present, that is the year 1942, the characters observe all the physical boundaries such as doors and walls. But when the time shifts to the past, The characters ignore the walls and walk right through them. Besides, there is joyous music that shows the happiness of the past. Blaring music becomes part of the setting during Willie Loman's affair in the hotel room. Willie, in the present time, walks with the stooped shoulders and looks weary since he is old. In the flashbacks, however, he walks forcefully. Biff and Happy also change their clothes in the scenes of the past and dress as youngsters. The play is structured to show the pleasures and hopes of the past and how these aspects of the past contribute to the agonies of the present. The scenes of the past are shown as illusions of Willie Loman. There are some scenes where there is rapid transition to the past, pointing out that Loman is caught in his illusions and unable to distinguish them from reality. The play opens at a moment when Willie feels especially trapped by all the events of his past. The time of the present play is only 24 hours, but because of the flashbacks to the past, the play stretches over a long period of time. Now we move to the next segment where we discuss what is the plot of this play. Willie Loman has been traveling salesman for the Wagner Company for 34 years. He likes to think of himself as being vital to the New England territory. As the play opens, Willie has just come back home after having left New England earlier that morning. He tells his wife Linda that he has returned unexpectedly because he cannot seem to keep his mind on driving anymore. Linda thinks that he needs a long rest. He asks about his sons who are home for the first time in years. Willie has trouble understanding why Biff, his 34-year-old son, cannot find a job and keep it. After all, Biff is attractive and was a star football player in high school with several scholarships. However, he could not finish his education for he flunked in math. When Biff went to Boston to find his father and explain the failure to him, he found Willie in his hotel room having an affair with a strange woman. Afterwards, Biff held a grudge against his father, never trusting him again. Biff and his brother Happy try to think of some job that Biff could get that would allow him to settle down in New York. Biff thinks of a man named Bill Oliver for whom he has worked. Biff believes that he can get a loan of $10,000 from Oliver in order to begin a business of his own. Biff and Happy tell Will about their plans. Willie explains to his son that important things in life are to be well liked and to be attractive. Willie assures Biff that he is attractive and that Oliver has always liked him. The next day, Willie is to meet his sons for dinner at a restaurant and to hear how Oliver has reacted to Biff's request for a loan. Willie himself goes to young Howard Wagner, the present owner of the firm for which he works, and asks for a transfer to New York City. Howard tells there is no room for him in New York and then explains to Willie that he cannot even represent the firm in New England anymore. This news turns Willie's life upside down. Suddenly unemployed, he feels frightened and worthless. He goes to Charlie, an old friend, to borrow money to pay his insurance premium. After Charlie lends him the money, Willie goes to the restaurant to meet his sons. Before Willie arrives, Biff tells Happy that Oliver did not even recognize him. He admits that he is tired of living a life filled with illusion and plans to tell his father not to expect anything from him anymore. When Willie arrives, he tells Biff and Happy that he has been fired. He also refuses to listen to Biff's story and simply believes that Biff will have another appointment the following day. Out of frustration, Biff leaves the restaurant. Happy, who has picked up 2 women, follows him, leaving Willie alone. Later that night, Biff comes home and finds Willie planting seeds in the backyard and talking to a long-dead brother, Ben. Biff again tries to explain to Willie that he has no real skills and no leadership ability. In order to save his father from disappointment, he suggests that they never see one another again. Willie still refuses to listen to what Biff is saying. He tells Biff how great he is and how successful he can become. Biff is frustrated because Willie refuses to face the truth. In anger, he breaks down and sobs, telling Willie just to forget about him. Willie decides to kill himself, for Biff would get $20,000 of insurance money. Then Biff could start his own business and make it a decent living. At Willie's funeral, no one is present. He dies as a pathetic, neglected, and forgotten man. We now move to the next segment where we discuss the major characters of this play. To begin with, Willie Loman, an insecure, self-deluded traveling salesman. Willie believes wholeheartedly in the American dream of easy success and wealth, but he never achieves it. Nor do his sons fulfill his hope that they will succeed where he has failed. When Willie's illusions begin to fail under the pressing realities of his life, his mental health begins to unravel. The overwhelming tensions caused by this disparity, as well as those caused by the societal imperatives that drive Willie, form the essential conflict of the play Death of a Salesman. Biff Loman, Willie's 34-year-old elder son. He led a charmed life in high school as a football star with scholarship prospects, good male friends, and fawning female admirers. He failed math, however, and did not have enough credits to graduate. Since then, his kleptomania has gotten him fired from every job that he has held. Biff represents Willie's vulnerable, poetic, tragic side. He cannot ignore his instincts, which tell him to abandon Willie's paralyzing dreams and move out west to work with his hands. He ultimately fails to reconcile his life with Willie's expectations of him. The next character is Happy Loman. He is Willie's 32-year-old younger son. He has lived in Biff's shadow all his life, but he compensates by nurturing his professional ambition. Happy represents Willie's sense of self-importance, ambition, and blind servitude to societal expectations. Although he works as an assistant to an assistant buyer in a departmental store, Happy represents himself as supremely important. The next character is Linda Loman, Willie's loyal, loving wife. Linda suffers through Willie's grandiose dreams and self-delusions. Occasionally, she seems to be taken in by Willie's self-deluded hopes for future glory and success. But at other times, she seems far more realistic and less fragile than her husband. She has nurtured the family through all of Willie's misguided attempts at success, and her emotional strength and perseverance support Willie until he collapses. Charlie is our next character. He is Willie's next door neighbor who owns a successful business, and his son Bernard is a wealthy, important lawyer. Willie is jealous of Charlie's success. Charlie gives Willie money to pay his bills, and Willie reveals at one point, choking back tears, that Charlie is his only friend. We now move to the next segment where we discuss the important themes of this play. Visions of America. While characters such as Willie, Linda, and Happy believe the United States to be a wellspring of easy opportunity and imminent success, the 1940s America of Death of a Salesman is crowded, competitive, and mundane. This contrast sets up an important gap between reality and aspirations of the characters in the play. In the end, Willie's belief that his self-worth is determined by material success destroys him. The next theme is about abandonment. Abandoned by his father and brother when he was extremely young, Willie is left materially and emotionally ungrounded. However much he fears abandonment himself, he made his son Biff feel emotionally abandoned when Biff discovered Willie's secret affair. Willie's powerful fear of abandonment drives him to form unrealistic expectations for and obsess over his sons. When Biff found out about Willie's affair, he did in fact abandon his father and pretty much disappeared for many years. Willie permanently abandons his son and family at the end of the play by committing suicide. Betrayal is our next theme. Death of Salesman is full of betrayal. Willie betrays Linda's love and Biff's trust with his affair. As the chief betrayer himself, Willie is preoccupied by the fear of betrayal. His frequent accusations that Biff is spiteful reflect his understanding that Biff's failure in business is a rejection of Willie's own dreams of success, and that Biff's inability to keep a job is related to Willie's love affair. Even outside of his family, Willie feels that his boss is betraying him by firing him. But Howard says there is no room for feelings of betrayal in the business world. Dreams, hopes, and plans is the next theme of the play. Willie Loman is a dreamer of epic proportions. His dreams of material success and freedom ultimately dwarf the other aspects of his mentality to the point that he is unable to distinguish his wild hopes from rational realities. Biff, more than any other character, struggles against the force of Willie's dreams and expectations. Success, another theme to discuss. Throughout Death of a Salesman, Willie pursues concrete evidence of his worth and success. He is entranced by the very physical, tangible results of Ben's diamond mining efforts and strives to validate his own life by claiming concrete success. Willie projects his own obsession with material achievement onto his sons, who struggle with a conflict between their intangible needs and the pressure to succeed materially. We now move to another segment where we discuss some more themes about this play. Lies and deceit. The Lomans are all extremely self-deceptive, and in their respective delusions and blindness to reality, they fuel and feed on one another. Willie convinces himself that he is successful, well-liked, and that his sons are destined for greatness. Unable to cope up with reality, he entirely abandons it through his vivid fantasies, ultimately through suicide. Linda and Happy similarly believe that Lomans are about to make it big. Unlike the other members of his family, Biff grows to recognize that he and his family members consistently deceive themselves, and he fights to escape the cycle of lying. Respect and reputation. Reputation is one of Willie's primary concerns. He thinks that all you need to succeed is to be attractive and well-liked. He celebrates his son's popularity in high school, asserting that it's vastly more important to be fawned over than to be honest or talented. Much of the time, Willie considers himself a well-liked man. He aspires to be just like a salesman whose death was mourned far and wide. Despite his fixation on reputation, Willie and his family members are neither well-known nor well-liked, and Willie's funeral is sparsely attended. Our next theme is the theme of pride. In the play, this theme of pride functions as a means of self-deception and as a coping mechanism. The Lomans, and particularly Willie, are extremely proud, even though the basis for their pride is not at all founded in reality. Willie celebrates his own astounding success in business and the accomplishments of his son, while the Lomans struggle financially. He is too proud to accept a job from Charlie, a man whom he considers to be his inferior. Willie and his family are incredibly proud people with nothing real to be proud of. The theme of freedom and confinement. This is closely tied to the economic security in Death of a Salesman. Linda and Willie long to escape both the physical confinement of their home and the economic confinement of their limited income, home, mortgage, and bills. Similarly, Biff finds New York to utterly confine him and can only imagine happiness and freedom working with his hands in the wide open West. Ultimately, the play seems to paint America's incredibly competitive version of capitalism as a thing that traps its citizens. This depiction is pretty ironic since America is supposed to be the land of the free, a place where if you work hard, you are free to make your dreams come true. Our next segment is where we discuss Death of a Salesman as a modern tragedy. In Death of Salesman, Arthur Miller presents a tragedy which is very different from the earlier tragedies such as the classical and the Shakespearean tragedies. On the basis of some unconventional rules, Miller produces a tragedy which is very modern in respect of the style as well as the subject matter. In fact, he shows that a common man also can be the protagonist of a tragedy, and his suffering also touch our heart. As we go through the play, we see that Miller does not violate the properties of the universal grammar of a tragedy. The universal properties of a tragedy include the presentation of a serious action that is complete in itself and capable of evoking pity and terror in order to produce catharsis in the audience. Death of a Salesman fulfills all these requirements, though in some unconventional ways. The dramatist also maintains the other properties such as the plot, character, thought, diction, song, and spectacle. Setting. The play has modern setting, though the play is set in 1949, but the times of the play fluctuate between 1928 and 1942. The action of the play takes place largely inside the Loman home in Brooklyn, but other places in New York and Boston are used as well, including hotel rooms, Willie's office, a restaurant, and Willie's gravesite. So, the setting of the tragedy differs from the setting of a classical tragedy. The setting of the play is not a royal palace, but the house of poor Willie. Now to discuss about the plot. As per the plot is concerned, Miller is almost as perfect as the classical dramatist. There are no digressions, and Willie Loman marches inexorably from the beginning to his catastrophic doom. Song and spectacle. In a Greek tragedy, the songs and spectacle added beauty to the play and helped create environment. Here, the flute playing replaces the Greek choral songs and helps create the environment of the play. The spectacle does the same thing. Tragic hero. But the most important factor in which the play differs from the classical tragedy is the presentation of the tragic hero. According to Miller, an average man can be an apt subject for tragedy, as exaltation of tragic action is not only for the kings or the kingly, but also a property of all men. Willie, an average man, is made the hero of the tragedy. As a hero, he does not fully fit into the traditional pattern, but in some respects he comes out as a tragic hero. Good and bad. Willie is not completely good or completely bad. He loves his family very much and also wants to see his sons in great positions. But at the same time, he has a secret relationship with a woman. Thus, he combines both the good and the bad qualities. But once again, the elements are very modern in nature. The extramarital affair is certainly a modern problem. Tragic flaw. Like a traditional tragic hero, Willie also has a tragic flaw which brings upon his downfall. His flaw is identified as his obsession with his dream. He always gives preference to face value and takes it granted for any kind of success in this world. This wrong conception leads him to the act of suicide. He has become so much part of the system of false value in a materialistic world that he dare not even deign to think of himself as apart from it. He is a salesman and refuses to be anything else. So Willie dies at the hands of his tragic flaws. Tragic feeling. About tragic feeling, Miller says, tragic feeling is evoked in us when we are in the presence of a character who is ready to lay down his life, if need be, to secure one thing: his sense of personal dignity. Like the classical tragedy, the play also arouses our feelings of pity and fear. He was wrong in his approach to the life and his ability, but his fault does not deserve so harsh a punishment. Willie not only represents the post-Depression American middle-class society, but in a larger sense, he is every man. To conclude, we find the play examines the cost of blind faith in American dream. In this respect, it offers a post-war American reading of personal tragedy in the tradition of Sophocles' Oedipus cycle. Miller charges America with selling a false myth constructed around a capitalist materialism nurtured by the post-war economy, a materialism that obscured the personal truth and a moral vision of the original American dream described by the country's founders. Hope you enjoyed today's program. Thank you. We'll see you soon in our next class.